given. Now the question is, who gives human rights? Most of us believe in human rights, but where do they come from? Do they come from a higher source, or are they granted by human beings to other human beings? Does might make right? Is there a higher law, what they used to call natural law? We think of that in different terms now, but the higher moral absolute law used to be called natural law, that which could be inherently known. Now the view that none of this exists, there is no higher law, there is no law other than what humans make, that's called positive law or legal realism. Just that the only laws are the laws written by men at that time. Laws are not based on inherent self-evident truth. Now, our society today wants they want virtue without truth. They want to believe that there is no absolute truth. At the same time, they want to extol virtues like courage and self-sacrifice, honesty. They want those things, but they don't want any basis for them. I heard on the radio yesterday just a tragic story of multiplied thousands of children being sold into sex slavery. And we're all horrified at that. My question is, on what basis are we horrified? If there is nothing that's absolutely true, if there's nothing that's absolutely right and wrong, if there is no higher reality, no natural law, on what basis are we horrified? It may be horrible to us, not horrible to the people who are promulgating that. Now in 1945, this was after World War II, the world faced a dilemma because positive law had gained a strong foothold. The most legal systems today are based on positive law, which means there are no inherent truths, there are no self-evident truths, there are no first principles of logic. And so in 1945, the very first international court was convened in Nuremberg, Germany, to try 24 Nazi officials as criminals. They were charged with, among other things, conspiracy, crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. And it was at this time that the prosecutors first showed to many people for the first time, saw the films, the horrible films of the concentration camps. Harry Truman was president. He appointed a Supreme Court justice by the name of Robert Jackson as chief counsel for the prosecution. Now follow this line here. The defense attorneys, these are the people defending the Nazi war criminals. What was their defense? How could they possibly defend the actions of these war criminals, these things who had committed these atrocities? Here was their defense. Positive law. Now listen carefully to this, since there are no higher laws, there are no inherent truths, there is no natural moral law that is self-evident to all of us, no laws were broken. You have to understand that it is true. All of the atrocities that were carried out during World War II by the Nazi Party were done so under German law at the time. What Hitler believed in Mein Kampf, that he got from a combination of Nietzsche and Darwin, they incorporated into German law. So the defense was, look, no laws were broken, and you can't go back and make something against the law after the fact. That's called ex post facto. You can't, if I do something that's not against the law today, you can't make it against the law and prosecute me tomorrow. So nothing illegal was done according to the defense attorneys. Let me read you something else here that might put a little slant on this to know exactly what we're talking about. This is the testimony of Rudolf Hess, who was the Auschwitz commander, the head of the Auschwitz concentration camp. He said, I commanded Auschwitz until December the 1st, 1943, and estimate that at least 2,500,000 victims were executed and exterminated there by gassing and burning. Now he's saying this proudly in front of a court, an international court. And at least another 500,000 succumbed to starvation and disease, making a total death of about 3 million. I used Cyclone B, deadly gas, and it took from 3 to 15 minutes to kill the people in the death chambers. After the bodies were removed, our special commandos took off the rings and extracted the gold from the teeth of the corpses. Another improvement we made over at Treblinka, another camp, was that we built our gas chambers to accommodate 2,000 people at one time. The way we selected our victims was as follows, and he goes on in this testimony. He broke no laws. If there are no inherent truths, if there is no absolute truth, if there is no self-evident natural law, then they broke no laws. In fact, of course, the prosecution had to make their case then on the basis of natural law, that there are indeed laws that are true, things that are right, no matter what human government says. Here's the question. Is it morally wrong for human government to suppress the rights of individuals? I can give you a modern-day example of a similar thing. Saddam Hussein doesn't recognize the legality of the international court that is conducting his trial because he doesn't recognize any laws outside of the own laws, the laws of his country. He made the law, so he made right, he made value, he made reality because there are no inherent truths. And by the way, guess who Saddam Hussein's mentor is? He's a student of Adolf Hitler. And so it just makes sense. Now, in Romans 1, and this is where we kind of can work some of the Bible in, I think it's so interesting to understand what biblical philosophy is. Romans 1 says that we can know what is right and wrong because we can know there's a God, we can know that we are morally responsible to Him, that it is not our right to choose what's right and wrong, that our laws, human laws, that are we would call civil law, should be subject to a higher law. And the thing that I want to try to drive home is you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want there to be some kind of universal virtue, if you want to be able to make the statement, for example, that what happened in those concentration camps is wrong, was always wrong, and would always be wrong, which I think surely most of us would agree. If you want to be able to make a statement that selling children into sexual slavery is wrong, if you want to be able to make the statement that torturing a child for personal pleasure is always wrong, then you must logically believe that there is an absolute truth that goes beyond the will of human beings. And if that's the case, it's kind of like, and most of us agree with that, I think. Every time we tell somebody what they ought to do or ought not to do, we are alluding to the fact that there is a higher law. And all of us, most of us that believe in that would also agree with the fact that none of us have lived up to that law. We're all failures. I've never met anybody that said we're perfect. I've never met anybody that said they were perfect. Even by our own standards, we're imperfect. So that leads us to make a biblical case for the whole concept of forgiveness. And on the next program, that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about what is the Christian philosophy? How does it fit in to this view? And what you'll see is that the whole idea of natural law leads us to the necessity of forgiveness offered through Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for watching Church for Skeptics. Broken heart, you have cried till your tears have dried. The dryness of your soul is the empty